In the last section, we started talking about the development workflow that we're going to be putting together to develop, test, and deploy our application. We're not going to talk about the role that Docker has in all this stuff. So first off, something you might have noticed as we were going through the flow in the last two sections. Even though I said, oh yeah, we're not going to talk about Docker just yet, you might notice that even with all those steps that we just went through, well, we didn't really talk about Docker one bit. Nowhere inside this series of steps, nowhere inside of talking about GitHub and using branches and Travis CI and AWS did we ever make one mention of needing to use Docker. And that's kind of the key thing to be aware of here. Docker is not a requirement for using this development workflow. I personally used exactly this workflow that we're talking about at several startups that I've worked at without using Docker one bit. Docker was not involved. So to execute this workflow, we absolutely do not have to make use of Docker. Docker is just a tool that's going to make executing some of these tasks a lot easier. That's the sole purpose of Docker. That's the only reason we're going to be using it for this flow. It makes our lives easier. It's not necessarily a requirement for any of the stuff that we're going to be doing. So with that in mind, it might seem like at some points in time, we are not paying quite so much attention to Docker. It's going to seem like at some points in time when we're going through this flow, we are paying a lot more attention to GitHub or AWS or Travis CI, and that's all totally okay. I want you to see how to use these services along with Docker. But again, Docker is not really the focus here. It's about understanding how we use Docker with these services. So with that in mind, one more quick break. We're going to come back to the next section and we're going to start working on this development workflow. So quick break and I'll see you in just a moment.